Very good morning to you all. Thank you very much for joining us today, and indeed a very happy new year. Hope you've had a very good start to the year. So I'm Julian Hubble. I head up sales for Drotec UK and Ireland. Joining me today is Joe DC, our technical account manager, who's going to talk you through some of the technical features of the 3910. Today's webinar is entitled Introduction to the Vigor 3910 10 gigabit enterprise router. So this is the latest sort of firewall in our range, giving you fantastic VPN concentration and much higher speeds than we've traditionally been able to supply. So those of you that are familiar with this, you know all about this, but essentially you've got a webinar interface here. And if you look at how the whole thing works, you can hide the control panel or bring it back by just clicking that button on the top left. There's a feature here which allows you to ask a question later on. So you will be able to ask questions as we go through the webinar. There's a kind of chat box which I'll explain in a moment. But at the end of the webinar, there's a bit of a free-for-all where you're free to ask a question to the panel, and hopefully we can answer your question. So click that. That will sort of virtually raise your hand and we can get straight back to you. And finally, just down here, there's a text box down there that you can ask a question at any time during this webinar if you're unsure about something or want a bit more clarification, and somebody should be able to get back to you straight away with a chat response. So hopefully all simple, all kind of makes sense. So today's agenda is really as follows. So I'm going to hand over in a moment to Joe, who's going to take you through the overview of the product. I'm also going to talk about some of the management features. Got some fantastic capability in terms of LAN ports and speed and VPN and so on. And there's also some great features you can use in this to manage the entire network, not just the firewalls and routers, which Joe will be going through in some depth later. I'm then going to come back in. We're going to talk about some of the typical applications where we see this product being used. And I'm just going to tag a little bit on the end to talk about availability. We've got some not for resale opportunities for our resellers to take advantage of should you so wish, so I'll kind of cover that bit later on. And finally, just kind of showcase some of the training we're doing. Some of you have already been on this training, but we do a kind of 2-day in-depth technical training hands-on session that covers the operating system that this product is based on and many of the others, which would encourage you to have a look at and see if it's of interest. Then finally, we'll have a kind of open session where you're free to ask questions, and maybe we can summarise any of the key chat questions asked and go through those. So I reckon we'll be around about half an hour today, so it's not going to be the usual hour. We should wrap through this pretty quickly. And without further ado, I'll hand over to Joe, who will take you through the next session of the webinar, and I'll speak to you later. Okay, here's Joe.
Hello everyone, and thank you for joining this part of the webinar, where we will now start looking at the overview of the Vigor 3910. So the 3910 is a great new product into the Drotec range. It is a high-end Drotec firewall offering up to 10 gig firewall throughput. So fantastic increase in firewall throughput now. We've got many products in the range, and this is the product now that offers up to 10 gig throughput. On this page, I'm really just listing off some of the key highlight features of the Vigor 3910. We'll go into some more detail as the slides go on in the presentation for certain areas, but some key features just to highlight again here now are up to 50 LAN subnets and VLANs, so great flexibility there, giving you full control of your local network environment and any setup that you need to apply. Also, we've got a PPPoE server in here for up to 200 user accounts, so great if you actually want to use this Drotec device in offering internet connectivity to other local devices that need PPPoE connection details, so other routers maybe in a building that need to get connection details. We can offer this on the Drotec product here. We've got the additional BGP and OSPF routing protocols, great for other ISP and other use cases, so that's great flexibility in this product. Editable configuration files, this is something quite new, and we'll go into a bit more detail, so it could be very useful to some of you there for actually maintaining configuration files on the Drotec device. And obviously we'll talk about high availability. This is a product that will be going into many connections where we need to ensure the WAN connectivity is stable, but also make sure that the hardware can actually fail over. So we'll discuss high availability as well. We'll be moving on shortly to talk about the WAN and LAN ports available on the front of this device. Talk to you about how we can flexibly configure all of them and what's available on those. And also, this type of device is great for being a VPN concentrator as well. So supporting up to a maximum of 500 VPN tunnels. And in terms of performance, we're getting great performance here in terms of the IPsec VPN throughput, up to just over 3 gigabit per second performance on IPsec VPN. And for when we can create SSL VPN tunnels as well, we have just over 1.6 gigabit performance on the throughput of the SSL VPN. So key features there, and we'll look into those in a little bit more detail during the presentation. In terms of the operating system running on the Vigor 3910, now Dratec have their own proprietary operating system called DreOS. So if you are familiar with this, you will have seen this on many of the other products in the range. So you will be right at home with going through the menus and locating the configuration options that you require. For those that are new to DreOS and Dratec products, here's an example screenshot here of the landing page of the Vigor 3910, the dashboard screen, and very usable. All the menu options available on the left, and this dashboard screen is great really for just giving you quick information, especially if you're managing a device remotely. You can quickly identify which ports are in use on the device. We can see the front panel on the very top of the screen there, which ports are in use and what speeds the ports have negotiated at as well. Other information very useful obviously is things like the firmware version that's currently on the device, system uptime, and any other configuration on the device, such as the LAN setup. I mentioned in an earlier slide that this device supports up to 50 LAN subnets. We can see we've got 4 of them configured here on this screenshot here, and we'll see any of the other WAN IP information as well for any connected interfaces. So that's the DreOS operating system. Next, we'll move on to the actual front panel of the device, the actual physical unit, the Vigor 3910, and we'll go through all the ports that are available to you. So first of all, we've got some LED status indicators from left to right here, and this just highlights, if you've got power, any activity on the router, and if the USB and SFP plus ports are in use. The 2 USB 3.0 ports available there, and this gives us a great opportunity to add additional functionality to the device through the life cycle of this product, and things like connecting syslog on USB potentially, and other applications as well. We have a physical console port on this device, and you will actually get the console cable within the box of the unit as well if you need to actually access the device via console. The next ports available, and this is really the highlight of this product, the 10 gig throughput is available through the SFP plus ports on these devices here. So we've got 2 of those on the unit, and these actually are switchable from WAN or LAN ports. The next ports that we have available are some 2.5 gigabit Ethernet ports. So the device will support up to 2.5 on these ports via using gigabit Ethernet RJ45 cables. The next set of ports, these are 1 gig throughput ports, and these are again switchable between WAN and LAN ports. And finally, the last set of ports here are all 1 gig Ethernet ports, but these are dedicated LAN ports as well. So that's a quick overview there of the actual ports and interfaces available on the unit. To go into a little bit more detail, we can see when this is a couple of screenshots here taken from the actual web interface of the Dratex Vigor 3910 itself. We can see the actual dashboard above and which ports are in use. The actual light indicators there, we can actually see that the SFP Plus port number 2 is actually in use. It's been configured as a LAN port, and it's actually syncing there with 10 gig throughput. We're using the SFP module in there, and we're getting 10 gig throughput on that. And we can see the other ports in use as well, and they're all 1 gig port throughputs on those connected devices to those ports. The actual configuration in the web interface is shown below, and we can see how flexible really the interfaces are for configuration. So we can specify very easily the function. Is it a WAN port or is it a LAN port? The first set of ports, 1 through to 4, they're all switchable WAN or LAN ports that you can select. Ports 5 and port 8 are grouped WAN or LAN ports. So essentially, if we select WAN there on port 5 through to port 8 are all WAN ports, and the same would apply if you selected LAN. And port 9 through to 12, they're all dedicated LAN ports. So this device offers much flexibility for any kind of installation that you are putting this into, and the WAN connectivity available at the site. Examples of this would be, you might have some fiber connections, SFP Plus modules that need to be connected for 10 gig throughput, dedicated Ethernet WAN services. We can obviously use our Vigor modems that are available. We have the Vigor 130 currently, which is the ADSL VDSL modem, but we also have some modems coming down the line that actually support VDSL and G.fast as well. So they obviously will have an Ethernet presentation and can be connected to one of those configured WAN Ethernet ports. And also you have an image there of the 2620 LN, and this is a SIM device. It's got dual SIM and can provide LTE connectivity, but also has a function where it can actually be put into an LTE bridge. So this is great for providing 3G, 4G connectivity to a site, and you can position the actual 2620 LN in a position where it's got a good signal and run an Ethernet cable back to the Vigor 3910 there, connected to a configured WAN port for connecting to that service. So very flexible in terms of how you want to use the device there. We've got a list again there of all the actual ports available, those 4 1 gig Ethernet ports there, 2.5 gig Ethernet ports, and we've got the 2 SFP Plus ports as well. So this is talking here about load balancing and failover. So obviously that's what Dratex are great for providing there, business continuity across those WAN connections. Also we have the option of not only WAN failover, but we can obviously provide hardware failover configuration as well. So using 2 Vigor 3910s in a master-slave configuration here, this network setup, we can actually have one device there, that standby unit, actually detecting the status of the current master Vigor 3910. Is it currently connected to the network, the local network? Is it actually responding? Does it have active WAN connections available? The ports, are they online? The WAN configuration, is there active available WAN connectivity on that master device? Potentially those WAN connections will go down, or someone's removed the actual cable from the device. Any of those types of scenarios there where the standby unit detects that there is an issue, that can actually take over and actually become the master unit on the local network. So that really helps for providing hardware failover. Dratex use CARP, which is for Common Address Redundancy Protocol. And that allows you really to actually have this set up in place. It's a really great, useful feature, and this is something that's not only available on the Vigor 3910, this is available across many of the Dratex units in the range. Just one thing to mention here is you will need to have the same model and variant of the device for the master and the slave setup. Both units need to be the same model. Okay, next we will move on to the connectivity functionality, the high throughput 10 gig connectivity available provided by the Vigor 3910, which I've mentioned, which is available across those two SFP plus ports, port 1 and port 2 there. Now, this is really very suitable for connecting to any other 10 gig equipment that you might already have on the local network. Potentially you might have a local NAS that supports 10 gig throughput, but also we have actually in the range at the moment some Vigor switches. Currently we have the 20 to 80X series. The X here indicates on the switch that it actually supports 10 gig throughput, and we will also have some more 10 gig throughput switches that will be coming through in the range shortly. So do look out for those, and this is something that you can actually connect up to the Vigor 3910 and actually make use of that 10 gig throughput today. In terms of the SFP Plus ports, the Vigor 3910 and also the switch in this screen will actually support SFP Plus modules, but we also support and provide a DAC cable, a direct attached cable. So we have the CX10 SFP DAC cable listed here, and this comes in two lengths, 3 meter and 1 meter cable. And what's great really about these is that you have the actual SFP Plus module and an actual cable that's actually already connected to those units. So it's just one device there, one item to actually connect the two units. There's no sourcing individual modules and also connecting them up as well. So some additional features of the Vigor 3910, we have the VPN functionality. So mentioned earlier that this is a high performance VPN concentrator. Total there of 500 simultaneous VPN tunnels that can be used. Out of those, we can also have 200 SSL VPN tunnels supported as well. We've got listed there the actual high throughput available across those VPN tunnels, so offering great performance there. And really the image here is just stating the types of VPNs that we can actually support on the Vigor 3910, whether this might be site-to-site, LAN-to-LAN VPN connections. It might be remote dial-in for teleworkers, so all different protocols supported there, but also we support SSL VPN, and I've mentioned there the actual throughput performance that's available as well. In terms of VPN, when we're doing site-to-site VPN, we might have multiple VPNs between sites, which offer us the opportunity to do VPN load balancing and also VPN failover. Should any particular WAN connection go down, we can still create a VPN failover between another available WAN interface on the device as well. That would actually need two WAN connections, both on the at least two WAN connections on the HQ site and also the remote site for that kind of setup. But you can see there the flexibility and the features available on this Vigor 3910, which is great. Next, we move on to the configuration files. So we can still do a standard configuration backup process. So if you're familiar with Draytech routers, you can take a configuration backup of the device and put that onto another similar model. In some cases, you can actually put that configuration file onto a higher end model as well. But those configuration files generally are not accessible. You cannot actually read the config on those, but now we have the option on the Vigor 3910 to actually export configuration files, and you can see the options that you have available. We can have the option to not have any encryption on that configuration file at all. If there is the option to actually encrypt the passwords only in the text file that you actually get, so you can actually read and modify the configuration there. So whether it might be, you've got some the router password, you'll be able to see that, the admin access password. You can modify that in the text file that you actually have available, or any other configuration that's listed there. VLAN tags, additional LAN networks, or changing the network address, and save that as a new file, and then you're able to import that configuration file into the Vigor 3910, and that new configuration will apply. So another way, and for some people I know this will be very useful, because they're used to doing this type of changes in configuration in this readable way. So that highlights many of the features of the Vigor 3910. What I will move on to now is just highlighting some of the management features that are available as well. So in terms of management, there is a couple of things to discuss here really. The Vigor 3910 offers central management. So this is very similar to what you would see in the other models in the range. We have central management for other Draytech devices on the local network. So the Vigor 3910 being installed on site, and the types of applications that it's used for, is quite likely that you may have a number of switches behind that Vigor 3910, and quite possibly a number of the Draytech access points providing wireless as well. So this really gives you a way of controlling and seeing the status of those devices through the Vigor 3910's web interface itself. So here we have a screenshot of the central management switch status screen, and this displays that behind that 3910 on ports 3 and port 4, which would obviously have been configured as LAN ports, that there was a G2280X, that 10 gig switch, and a Vigor P1280 device that was connected to those ports. And these are the Vigor switches, and information is then displayed on the Vigor 3910 status page of which ports are actually in use. So we can actually see that by the green circles that are displayed on the screen here. And when you actually select on any of those ports, it will actually pull off the information of that. So the IP address, MAC address of the device, and you've got some additional control. We can actually disable this port right from this point here. Also, what's quite good to note as well is we can see the IP address and the MAC address. So there is actually a functionality in this menu, the central management menu, to actually search for an IP address or search for a MAC address, and the Vigor 3910 can actually then tell you that that specific device is connected to switch number and port number. So very useful feature for remote troubleshooting or trying to check the status of a remote site. You can quickly identify those devices and which ports they're connected to. We can also see on the far right that the icon is slightly different, and that just indicates the uplink port. So we can actually see which ports are being used to connect the switch back to the router on P3 and P4 there. So they're the uplink ports. I did mention as well that the Vigor 3910 can manage the Draytech access points as well. So Draytech have a range of wireless access points that can be managed directly from the router. And from here we can see the dashboard screen here just lists the number of access points I'm using here in this test setup. Vigor AP910C, the ceiling mount device, and the Vigor AP903 as well. So we can see some graph information here about the number of devices that are connected, the amount of traffic that's going through those devices, but also there's much more that you can do through this central management, such as checking the number of clients that's connected, the firmware versions that's in use, are they online or are they offline, and the list goes on really in terms of doing firmware upgrades and rolling out wireless profiles to these units. So great options there in terms of the management from the router. Now moving on from management from the actual device and the local network devices behind the Vigor 3910, those local Draytech units, we also offer central management solution called Vigor ACS. So this is a web portal access to Vigor ACS here, a login which displays the Vigor 3910. For any of you that have Vigor ACS 2, we will be supporting the Vigor 3910 in a future version that will be soon to be released. So you will then be able to not only manage all the current Draytech models that you have, but also the new Vigor 3910 as well. So this Vigor ACS 2 really just gives you great control, visibility of all your devices, check the status of the unit, and give you full control in terms of firmware upgrades, configuration backups, or making any type of configuration change that you want to the unit, with the added bonus of the fact that you can actually schedule those changes. So if the change needs to be applied out of hours as to not affect the local network during business working time, then that's also possible as well. So we have some other webinars on Vigor ACS2, and there is trials available for Vigor ACS2 as well, so do keep that in mind. So at this point, we will complete the overview of Vigor 3910, and I'll now hand back over to Julian, who is going to go through the next part of the webinar, which is applications.
Thanks very much indeed, Joe. Excellent overview of the product and some of the key features. To sort of cap things off today, I'm just going to cover some of the sort of applications that the product might be sold into. I'm sure most of you are probably way ahead on this one, and actually Joe did cover some of this in the previous thing, but just to sort of put a kind of summary to the whole presentation today, I'm just going to focus on four key areas that you may want to use this product. One is a VPN concentrator. Gateway for high-speed networks, an enterprise gateway for high-speed networks, and all that kind of multi-line for either load balancing or port flexibility or line failover. And finally, probably quite a common use of this type of product, a multi-network, multi-tenant type environment where you want to segment quite a large number of LANs for different types of customer. So the first one is the VPN concentrator. This type of environment is very common for some of the Draytech customers we've got in the UK. Many sort of retailers use our product, and this would be a sort of, I suppose, a classic example of that, where you've got lots of remote sites. Could be using our sort of entry-level 2762 sort of home worker type product. We've also got the business class 2862 range for the larger offices. This could all come in together with mobile users right the way into this device, and it will concentrate all those VPNs. So up to 500 VPNs, as you know. So you could really connect to many sites or mobile users using this new VPN concentrator. And as Joe described in his presentation, the 3910 will be supported by our ACS central management solution very soon. With that, you'll be able to manage the concentrator as well as all the remote devices through one central platform. And clearly, if you've got access points and switches hanging off the back of those devices in the field, that gives you much more control as well. So that really nice product that sort of really completes this range in this particular environment. Second area really is enterprise gateway, and this, I suppose, covers a multitude of sins. You could have lots of remote sites or users connecting. You can have a high-speed connection to the internet. You can have various high-speed devices connecting to the 3910. The example here I've got is a high-speed switch, but it could be, I suppose, a server or a NAS box or something like that. And if you look down there, I've just kind of highlighted how this DAC cable might be used in this particular environment down here, just sort of highlighted here. You've got this SFP port with the DAC cable connected to it, which can then connect to a high-speed device as well. Lots of ports to choose from, so really loads and loads of flexibility in how you might want to use this product. The third area here is kind of load balancing. I guess this could also be used in a kind of line failover mode as well. There are 8 ports. They're obviously take different forms here. So you've got these 2 SFP ports, which are the 10 gig ports that Joe explained earlier on, that could be LAN or WAN. You've got this high-speed 2.5 gigabit Ethernet ports there for higher speed connections, and then you've got the gigabit connections here. So that these can be configured in LAN or WAN mode. So together gives you that potentially up to 8 WAN connections that you could use for load balancing or line failover. 8 would be quite something, I think, based on the high-speed networks of today, but there could well be usage for this when you've got lots and lots of slow-speed lines. Maybe you want to combine LT into it as well, but loads and loads of flexibility there, and I'm sure many of you can think of environments where that might be actually quite useful. And finally, we've got a kind of multi-tenant, multi-LAN type environment here. I know many of you sell into these types of environments. We've got a building here. Maybe it's an office block, maybe it's student accommodation or something like that, where you've got lots and lots of different organisations or individuals that want to be regarded separately. Using the subnet feature, you can have up to 50 different secure networks all connecting to the 3910. Can operate in NAT or routing mode. You can have up to 1,022 devices on each sub-network, so massive capability there. And you've got interland routing for resource sharing, so that, I don't know, there could be a printer or a server or some central resource that wants to be used by all these different discrete networks. And we kind of use the use of color down here to indicate a certain set of devices connecting to a certain set of ports that are managed through subnets. So loads and loads of flexibility there, high speed, great device that you can take into this type of environment. And just to wrap up, a couple of things I wanted just to highlight to you. So first of all, in terms of availability, yes, it is available now. Came into the UK just before Christmas, and it's available in volume from your preferred distributor. As a reseller, you'll have a buy price, but the SRP is $699 plus VAT. So if you're familiar with some of the market and kind of what's available out there, that's a very, very attractive price for this stamp of product in the marketplace that we see today, and we see a lot of demand for this. Small typo there, that should say not. So not for resale. NFR units are available for all our authorised partners. So if you wanted to take one of these and use it internally, or use it for demo purposes, or maybe use it for sort of, trial sites, demo sites or so, or whatever, we do have this off available at a much lower price if you want to use it for this particular purpose. And one of the other things that I'll introduce now, which may be relevant to this product, is a new deal registration or deal reg scheme we've recently brought into place. This is designed to help you when you may find an opportunity and you'd like to declare that with us, where we can register the deal with you and we can give you a slightly better price that's sort of guaranteed to you and that particular end user, to sort of protect you from from margin erosion and so on, and to ensure you get a really good attractive price to enable you to sell it competitively and or make more margin. We'll provide you details of this after this call. It's available for any opportunity above £5,000 in total, or for 30 units or more. This can be any Draytech products, by the way. It doesn't just need to be 3910. So as I say, contact your distributor for more details. I'll be happy to supply with more information. And just finally, many of you will have gone through DCNA. This is on sort of a 2-day hands-on course we introduced just over a year ago. I think we've had over 600 individuals from something like 400 organisations take part in this. It's been very, very successful. It's a 2-day course. It's hands-on, so anybody that comes onto this will get their own devices on their desk to use and configure. There are 2 specialist trainers that take you through the certain features that you might want to use, a guided configuration, and at the end of it, on the second day, you get a kind of course that, a test that combines all the different skills you've learned, and on passing that, you can have that certification as a Draytech Certified Network Administrator. I think pretty much more than 95% of people that attend do pass this, so it's very popular. People are very attentive, and they go away really, really enjoying the course and having a lot of great information on it. It's held regionally. We've got them going on in London, Manchester, Midlands, in Scotland, and some of the other regions as well. We'll drop you a line afterwards explaining about this if you haven't already come on it. There's a little URL there, so it's a bit of a long one there, but if you want to make note of that, fine. If not, we'll mail you afterwards with more details, and we'd certainly welcome you on one of those courses. It does cover the Drayos system. It covers a number of different products. The 3910 is covered, but I should say it's not a dedicated 3910 course. It's really designed to talk about our range and how you can apply the standard configurations, pick up best practice and so on, as and when you find opportunities for Draytech. So that kind of concludes the formal part of the course of this particular webinar. I'm now going to come through to the Q&A section. This gives you an opportunity to ask a question live. So you probably remember when I did my initial introduction, there's a little kind of virtual raise your hand button you can connect. But I do note, to kind of get things going, there have been quite a number of questions that have come up that you've asked in the chat room. And I've got a few common ones here that I'm just going to highlight now. So I think my colleague Alex, our CTO, might be on the line there. Are you there, Alex? He should be coming at any moment now, hopefully. Hello, Alex, are you there?
Hello, I am.
Hi, Alex.
I believe Joe's on the line as well.
Oh, Joe's on the line as well. Okay, good. I thought we might have lost you for a moment. glad to hear you there. So the first question we got here is about SFP Plus modules. So obviously we got these SFP interfaces, and I guess there are different cubics and so on that you can connect to that. So first question is, what SFP modules are officially supported in the 3910? So I don't know whether Joe and Alex, you want to take that one?
Yeah, I'll take that one, Julian. So the question there on which SFP modules are officially supported. So the router should be compatible pretty much with any of the SFP Plus modules that are available that follow the interface standard. So good thing is, on the Vigor 3910, we're not locking the hardware down to any specific devices that you can use. So you should be able to use any vendor as long as they support SFP Plus.
Okay, so that's great. So it's more of a sort of open policy there. You should work with modules that you want to connect to it, which is good news, I guess. Adds more flexibility. So second question was, will Draytec be selling SFP Plus to RJ45 converters? So I guess that's SFP to Ethernet connection converter. So again, can you just handle that question?
Yeah, sure. So in terms of SFP Plus to RJ45, this isn't something that we're planning on providing. Typically, the use case of the SFP Plus port will be from SFP Plus to SFP Plus. So if I go 3910 to something like that 2280X series switch that we mentioned in the webinar. Really, for RJ45, we just recommend currently at the moment to connect from the RJ45 port to another existing port. And just to re-highlight, on the Vigor 3910, you've got the 1 gig RJ45 ports, and you've also got the 2.5 gig RJ45 ports as well.
Yeah, so there's loads of RJ45 high-speed connectivity available in the device, so that's good to hear. Another question, quite an easy one. Even I could answer this one, I hope. So, how would you use the 3910 with a DSL connection? So clearly we've got lots of Ethernet WAN ports. How do we connect it to DSL?
Okay, yeah, so the Vigor 130 is a modem that we currently provide in our range, supports both ADSL and VDSL lines, and that is essentially how you would supply the Vigor 3910 with connectivity to that DSL connection. It would just be an Ethernet presentation between the Vigor 3910 and the Vigor 130, so just one cable between that, and then the DSL connection is handled by the Vigor 130 modem. Just to add, there is expected to be another version of a modem coming along the line that will support VDSL and G.fast as well. And actually, we may expect sometime in the future a Vigor 3910 that actually supports VDSL and G.fast directly on the unit as well.
Yeah, okay, great. That's cool. Yeah, so great product, the Vigor 130. I should also emphasise these are all backwards compatible as well. So when we do have the G.fast, it's backwards compatible with VDSL and also ADSL as well. So it covers all options there. Okay, at this stage, I'd normally see if anybody wanted to ask a question. I can't actually see anybody raising their hand. So we will be closing things down in around about 5 minutes. So if you do have a burning question, now's the time to raise your hand. But we do have 3 other sort of questions that came through the text facility there. So got another question here on OpenVPN. So we've got our own VPN concentrator. So can the 3910 do OpenVPN is another question that's been asked.
Yeah, sure. The OpenVPN is also now supported on DreOS, included on the Vigor 3910. So in terms of, I mentioned throughput previously on SSL VPN and IPsec type VPN connections as well in the presentation. Just to mention, OpenVPN at the moment supports throughput of about 50 megabits per second, but this is likely to increase with future firmware that will be provided.
Okay, question here about WAN connections and VPN tunnels. So question is, how many WAN connections can be used on a VPN tunnel? So we've got a VPN tunnel, multiple connections. How many connections can be assigned to a VPN tunnel?
Yep, sure. So actually combining multiple VPN tunnels into a VPN trunk, currently at the moment it's 2 connections per VPN trunk. So again, this might be something that can be expanded with the Vigor 3910 in future firmwares, but currently at the moment 2 WAN connections can build 2 VPNs, and they can be set up as VPN trunk for load balancing or failover.
Okay, and second to last is support for USB disks. So the question there, can this support USB disk?
Yeah, so the Vigor 3910 has those 2 USB 3.0 ports. Future firmware will add USB disk support on that. So previously in Dre OS, we've had support for kind of like having a small NAS, having syslog saved to the disk. So those types of applications are likely to come along with future firmware.
Okay, and finally, just around Vigor ACS support for the Vigor 3910. Obviously, a lot of our dealers are standardising on ACS now, and I'm sure keen to see ACS support in the product. So we did highlight that it's going to be coming available. Of course, everyone wants to know when is it likely to be available, and what sort of version of ACS is likely to support this. So give us an up-to-date answer on that.
Yeah, so the latest on that, our current timeframes are around February time for the availability of managing Vigor 3910 in Vigor ACS. The version, for those that are using Vigor ACS at the moment, the version expected will be 2.5.4. And there is actually a beta of that ACS available. So if you would actually like to test that currently with Vigor 3910 you already have, then please do contact us and we'll provide that to you.
Awesome. Okay, Joe, I think that highlights the key questions we had. It sounds like there's no sort of hands raised, so I'll have to assume that we've answered all the questions people want. So I'll just kind of close by saying thank you very much for attending today. Really, really good to see so many of you on the webinar. This has been recorded, by the way, so if you want to refer to it afterwards, there will be a link to view the webinar in future. I hope this is an excellent introduction to this product. Good luck with opportunity, and if we can assist you in any way to help your sales, please don't hesitate to contact us. So thank you very much. We'll close off now. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you sometime soon when we have our next webinar. Thanks a lot, and bye for now.